Insightful, provocative, honest to a fault. You better find your safe space. The Nick Johnson Show is about to begin.
Well, I'd like to welcome you to the final presidential debate coverage, and I couldn't be more ecstatic about it. I want to get through this. I want to get just done with it. I want to put it behind us because there's so much more to talk about than just these debates and this election itself. I'm getting kind of electionitis or election dayitis, whatever you want to call it, like kind of like senioritis. I just want to get it done. I've checked out. There's nothing more that can come out of this. I mean, nothing positive at the very least. But so we're gonna get into it real quick, and we're gonna get out of it hopefully as painlessly as possible. So if you listen to the pre-debate coverage, we we talked about the Vegas prop bets that came out, and I had found this through TMZ, and it was through a lot of other sources too. But if you weren't with us on the pre-debate, I'll just give you the quick rundown here. Some of the bets were who will be the first to interrupt the other, which if you watched, you found out Trump won. I don't think that's any surprise to any of us. Will Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton shake hands before the debate begins? And no, that didn't happen at all again. And actually, not even the spouses, not even the family members shook hands at all. How many times will Donald Trump say tremendous? Like I said, I didn't think it was going to be a tremendous thing. He's big league, and a lot of people are getting this confused. They think it's bigly. And I mean, I probably has been said by him in another occasion, but what he's saying is big league. So I guess that's his way of describing, just a major issue, major problem, or a major fix in whatever context he's talking about. But the other ones were how many times will Trump say rig or rigged? And I think between the both of them, it was a combination of them both talking about this in one way or another. And I mentioned that in the pre-debate coverage. And I think they're both setting themselves up for that there's foul play in this election on either end. So you have Trump saying it's rigged because of the media and through the DNC, all those things that he's bringing that back to. And like I said, Hillary's just going to bring it into Russia, how Russia had their involvement through WikiLeaks and the hacks and all this. So she's going to say if Trump won, well, it's because of the Russian hacks and all that. So either way, they're going to claim rigged. And I don't think anything good is going to really come of that. But I actually heard a couple comments on that through the Morning Joe, and I got that sound clip for you. So we'll try to get to that a little later. But another one of the bets were either candidates say liar. Probably I wasn't really paying that much attention to it. Will Trump say drug test? Will Clinton say Billy Bush? Will Trump say Bill Clinton? Will Trump say crooked Hillary? Will Trump say I was wrong? And I got a good kick out of that last time. No, he's not going to say he's wrong. So they went at it head to head, and a lot of people were saying that this one was the best debate yet. And there was some more discussions about policy than I really actually expected, especially with it being the last debate. I didn't think really that they had much more they could say about each other personally, so I'm happy that they didn't just talk about nothing for 90 minutes, even though there's a few nasty digs here and there. But something that I wanted to focus on was something that Hillary said, and it was when they were talking about the Second Amendment, and it probably was a segue from the Supreme Court. So I think that's how they got into that conversation. But what Hillary was talking about with the Heller decision, and how she immediately took it to what she said about how they were trying to protect toddlers, right? That's why she opposed the Heller decision, because she wanted to protect toddlers. And that tactic is something I've been researching and reading about. And what that is a typical play from the left. This is a typical progressive tactic. And what it's supposed to do, and she's revisiting this, right? So this was the progressive tactic during the Heller decision, when in all actuality, the case was about Richard Heller, who was a government employee. He was able to carry his federal firearm into federal buildings to protect politicians. And it was about how he wasn't able to do that because of legislation at home. He wasn't able to protect his own home with a handgun, with a firearm, but he was able to do it in the federal buildings for the federal workers. So that's what that case was derived from. So there was legislation involved that came into play because they were trying to turn it into this protection of toddlers. So when this decision was going on, now she's revisiting that and trying to make that happen again. She's trying to create a fear. That is the progressive tactic. That's how they get themselves to be relevant and to get into power. So they create fears like gun control, and as it pertains to toddlers, global warming, things of that nature, and any real social problem. That's where they derive their vision, their mission, and their relevance from. Is that they create the fear, they sell you on the fear, right? Global warming. A lot of people are really bought into that. And immediately I'm going to get dubbed a climate change denier, so have at it. I think we, in some respects, we're very arrogant to think that we know so much about the climate, that we know that we are the ones affecting it. This world has been around for so much longer than we've been able to study it for. I think that things happen naturally. So let's just get that out of the way. Do whatever you want. Have at it. So they create the fear that something needs to happen, right? Government action needs to be taken in order to protect the society from the problem that they've sold you on. So they play into your basic element of fear that we all have, right? So a fight or flight response, that chemical response. Now, this has been studied by Harvard medical doctors, that this is actually a concept that is being used. It's a trick. It's a mind trick. So they get themselves into your head. They sell you on the fear. And in this instance, Hillary's using the Heller decision and toddler protection as the fear, because everybody thinks children are cute and we love children and we want to protect them. And when I say that, I hear the hypocrisy in what Hillary constantly is saying, how she's for the protection of children, yet she's for partial birth abortion, which was a big topic that came up in the debate. But back to the gun control aspect of it. So she uses that human emotion for the love of children as the basis for her relevance and legislation to come from it. And that is what has been driving us to this point, right? That's been a lot of the things that we've seen through Obama and in Obamacare itself. Create the fear that there's people dying on the street from lack of health care, and that we need to, it is our not even our right, our obligation to provide this social health care program. So they sell you through it that way. And when you make decisions based off of that emotion, the response isn't what you would have if you had given it more thought and it was presented to you in a different manner. So that's that play into fear that they constantly use to become part of the conversation and to have a reason. Because if in their progressive vision they weren't working towards a more perfect society, right? And that's why they are willing to make such drastic changes. That's why the Constitution to them is a living, breathing document. It's not how it was written by the founders and supposed to be interpreted as the founders meant for us to interpret it. It's that we have to make these changes to our Constitution, to our lifestyle, to our policies, in order to get ourselves to this vision of a utopia where we're all these perfect people. And that simply isn't possible. They bring us into extreme debt into trying to create this vision, and we see that Obamacare is now bottoming out. We see the effects from it, and a lot of the times people are still buying into it. And I think, just like I said earlier, that I think when we make these decisions based off of fear, that we tend to make decisions in haste, and haste makes waste. And government creates the waste through ineffective policies and just legal jargon and regulation buries the American people and steals our freedom. So in our exchange for the comfort rather than the fear that they've created. So we seek comfort and we allow them to have this power, which then in turn takes our freedom. And that's because we feel like in our fear that we need to be safe. So we give them the power and lose our freedom. So after watching this final debate, it reinstilled that to me, and it bothered me that I wasn't able to see Trump defend that. I don't think he's equipped to defend and defeat that type of thinking and those types of policies. So when I'm watching the debate and I'm seeing that he's not able to give an adequate response to this, it gave me a vision of what was to come either way. So I know what to expect from Hillary. She's going to be playing into the fear and trying to gain more power and get more legislation passed through these fears, whether it's for climate change as she continues, whether it's for abortion, whether it's for gun control. So I can see a Clinton presidency. I understand what that is, but I'm fearful that Trump as a president wouldn't be able to know how to protect the Constitution from the people within government that have power as well. So it's concerning to me on both ends, and it's a little disheartening to see this on the final debate and just to see where we're headed and where we might end up. And like I've been saying, I think we could have done a lot better. Unfortunately, we weren't able to. And we have to deal with that outcome. So this has been something that I've been thinking about for a while now, and I've made mention of it in other podcasts. But I think regardless of what happens, we have to be able to come together. So that's something that I've already, I think I'm beating a dead horse here. But we are the American people. So whatever happens through whatever presidency we might see, we still have to live together. We still have to work together. So always keep that in mind. And what I wanted to leave you with was something that Joe Scarborough said. And it was in response to what the media was picking up on when Trump said that he would look at the results of the election at the time. So this is going back to the rigged conversation where Trump may not accept the results of the election. So we're gonna bring that in right now. Hopefully everything goes through here.
This is an example. The media got something they can absolutely freak out about and claim that he's an agent of Vladimir Putin and destroying democracy in America. And it's just another example of the media having to find a little phrase and freak out.
But Joe, he's been
when
saying this
as a Republican, I have listened to Democrats talk about the only 2 times we won the White House in like 800 years that we stole both elections. I had to sit through Fahrenheit 9/11, and a lady was sobbing violently behind me on the Upper West Side about the election being stolen from George Bush, and I patted her halfway through and go, "It's all right. It's all right, ma'am."
But Al Gore,
hold on. It's all right. It's all a lie anyway. Democrats have been whining for 16 years. They're still writing articles about how Bush stole the elections in 2000 and 2004. So this holier-than-thou attitude about this is the first time anyone has suggested that the election is not a sacrosanct process. It's a joke. So you guys bathe in that hypocrisy if you want to. I'd just like to hear how the debate went. Go ahead,
but Joe,
bathe.
you can't.
I think that sums up a lot from what we've seen as a general response from this debate. And I haven't really heard much of Joe Scarborough from the Morning Joe, but after hearing that, I think I might check him out a little bit more and see what he has to say. But again, it points to the hypocrisy of the left and a lot of their tactics that was mentioned earlier through legislation, gun control, those types of things, and just their overall approach to destroying their opponents and the way in which they operate. So this is the final debate coverage. Election day is coming up. So we're going to start changing gears here. We're going to start getting into things that I think are sometimes more relevant than this. I mean, it is the biggest election, I think, that in my lifetime. But I think that there's more to be discussed than just the election reports in the debate. So I'm looking forward to getting into other things here. So I hope you've enjoyed the debate coverage. Check back with me, facebook.com/NickJohnsonCT. Also at theconservativemill.org. That's the website. That's the blog. YouTube, The Nick Johnson Show, and SoundCloud, The Nick Johnson Show as well. So thanks for running through these debates with me, and let's keep moving forward here.